Get out while I take a look at it.
Sure. Go ahead. Hey, taxi! Union Station. Fourth and Hamilton.
22K, Roger. KMA 367.
About 30, 6 feet tall, 175 pounds, gray flannel suit, no hat.
Sorry, Pete, but that's the best I could do. I never really got a good look at him.
You said his behavior seemed normal.
Well, it did at the time, but I...
Okay, we'll call you when we need you at the lineup.
19, car 19.
I got the report on the fingerprints.
Yeah?
It's our man, all right.
How you doing, Sam?
Okay, there's his right foot. Let's have a look at it. Got a good left foot, too.
Car 60.
We'll check him with Charlie.
Car 60.
We're finished here.
50, 76, 73. Man assaulting him.
Mr. Martin.
Can I fix it for you later, honey?
Don't forget.
He wears a 9.5-piece shoe.
Same size I wear.
Well, here's something a little more interesting. These are the cigarette butts found at the motel murder site a month ago. And these are the ones found in and around the car this morning. Now, do you notice anything peculiar?
They all have lipstick markings, and there are about twice as many short ones as long ones.
That's right. Take a look. Notice the lipstick on the long one to your right. It's uneven and spread pretty thin. Now look at the short one. It's almost twice as thick. In each case, the murdered woman smoked the short one, but she lit the long one in her own mouth and then passed it over to him.
Excuse me.
Hello, Wilkins speaking. Pete? Yeah, he's here. Okay, I'll tell him. I want you down at the Central Produce Market. They have a guy who thinks he saw your man.
Let's go, Don.
In the turmoil and confusion of the market, the killer's flight had gone unnoticed, except for one man who thought he'd seen him cross the street and hail a taxi. Detectives then checked every cab office in the city. At each one, they received the same reply: no fare picked up in that area. For all his carelessness, the killer had been swallowed up in the trackless jungle of the city. And out of that jungle, as the notoriety increased, came the creatures. Strange, forgotten souls, eager to confess to crimes they did not commit. In their desire to bask briefly in the spotlight of the headlines, they were willing to admit to anything. Each day brought new confessions and still more versions of how the crime had been committed. And so the admissions of guilt continued. Every cop on the beat had at least one habitual whom he could count on to confess to any and every crime. It was time-taking, discouraging work. But every story had to be checked, every letter and phone call investigated. There was always the chance that this one might be it. The only one who enjoyed it was the killer. It became evident they needed more than a physical description to pin him down. They had to get inside his brain to see what made him tick. To try and determine in advance what his moves would be, they consulted Dr. Werner, the police psychiatrist, authority on the criminal mind.
Well, I'll say that homicidal maniacs fall pretty much into three categories. There's the sadistic psychopath, the epileptic equivalent, and the paranoid. Now let's consider the sadistic psychopath first. Now you'll recall, no doubt, that the wounds inflicted on all three parties were pretty much alike. According to the coroner's reports, any one of these wounds might have caused death immediately. There was no real attempt to torture. So I think we can forget about sadistic psychopaths.
Good enough.
Then let's consider the epileptic equivalent. He kills in frenzied fits and seizures at unpredictable times. His methods are varied and irregular. Now, according to the motorcycle officer who saw him, your man was perfectly calm. And the records indicate a possible time pattern in his attacks and regularity in his methods.
Which leaves us the paranoid.
And I think he's the man you're after. Now, to illustrate my point, let's take a brief case history. Well, I won't say it's his, but it might be. A boy who is emotionally too weak. Maybe without parents or friends or family. He's lost, nobody to hold on to. But he finally finds a wife or a girl and becomes entirely dependent on her. Well, she turns out to be no good, but he still clings to her. But then one day she runs off with another man who shows her a good time. The boy is desperate because he finds himself lost again. He suffers a tremendous shock, and that does it. His world collapses, and he has to get even. The balance of his mind tips so that his emotions are transferred to a pathological desire for revenge on the girl or her prototype.
Blondes, under 30, about the same height and weight.
And he'll keep on killing the same type of girl until you catch him.
And so they had a little more to work with, especially when the psychiatrist's information dovetailed with their first real break. A Glendale cabbie remembered picking up a fare at the produce market on the morning of the murder. He'd been afraid to talk before. There's a local ordinance that prohibits out-of-town cabs from picking up a fare inside city limits.
Lieutenant Hamilton?
Yeah, that's right, that's me.
My name is Jackson. I'm with the Rapid Transit Cab Company.
That's Sergeant Ward.
Glad to know you, Sergeant. I've got some information for you fellas, but it's got to be off the record.
It'll be off the record, forget it.
It's about this crazy killer you guys are after.
Sit down.
Thank you. I'm at the produce market one day on my regular beat, and I'm picking up a guy, see? It's a funny thing about this guy. I drop him off at the Union Station. I'm pulling up for a stoplight at the corner. I'm lighting up a cigarette, and I take a look behind me, and I see this guy making a beeline for a different cab.
What kind of a cab?
A yellow.
Yellow. You sure?
Yeah.
Here it is. I knew we'd have it somewhere. Cab number 803. Picked up a fare at 6:05 at Union Station, drove him to 4th and Hamilton.
Thanks.
Sure.
Let me see. She does look a little familiar. But I see so many faces, it's hard for me to...
Try and think.
I am trying. Yeah, I remember now. There was a dame in here looked like that. Only a little blonder, I think. She was in here for a couple of hours, gave some guy the come on, and left. It was pretty late, I think. And he went out after her.
What kind of a guy? What did he look like?
Oh, just an average sort of guy, I guess. After all, it's been about a month, and a lot of other guys have been in here since.
Don't you remember anything about him? His suit, maybe?
Yeah. It was dark brown. No. Kind of a blue. I think.
Thanks.
Or was it,
So from now till the end of the operation, you're all assigned to us for special duty. Each of you's been chosen because of a close resemblance to the type of woman this man is likely to go for. It's your job to see that he does go for you. We've been able to figure his range of operations to an area within a radius of 15 miles. We've also classified the bars where he's likely to pick up his next victim. He's expected to strike in the next few days.
Now for procedure. A plainclothesman will be detailed to each of you. You will never be out of his sight. You've just been given a good general description of the criminal on those cards. Don't waste time on anybody who doesn't match. When you have what appears to be a suspect, play him along until he makes a definite move. Then signal your detective to make the arrest.
What would you call a definite move?
Well, you'll have to decide that for yourself.